Hey team, it's Kelly from Kelly's Astrology here. Welcome to the very first video for the brand new Stellar Insights Monthly, and also welcome to the first video for the month of February. So in this video, what I intend to do is just give you a broad overview of the themes and energies for February, and then in each of the weekly videos I'll go into the aspects that I touch on today in more detail, but I'll also be able to talk about some more specific, slightly smaller events that maybe don't kind of rate a mention in the month ahead video, but will still be significant from a week to week perspective. So really what I want to try and do with this video is kind of get you connected to February and how it fits in to the year as a whole. February is kind of a mellow month, and I don't say that to be dismissive of particular cycles that you personally might be going through, but more so because when I look at how, what's happening in February and how that compares to some of the astrological events that will happen in different months later in the year, there's sort of less dramatic, there's actually just less going on in general this month. Of course, the two features or the two highlights will be the big eclipses, which are really the standout events for February. And I'm going to talk about both those eclipses a little bit in this video. And I also want to get you across one significant aspect for February, which will be Mars in Sagittarius squaring Neptune in Pisces. Now that aspect happens on February 17th, kind of right in the middle of the month, just after the Aquarius solar or new moon eclipse. And so I want to talk about that. And then I also just want to catch you up on where the planets are in the sky right now. So just to give you a quick overview or rundown about where Mercury is, where Mars is, where Venus is. So you get a feel for the vibe and for kind of the theme of February. Generally speaking, I've kind of got this sense that February is really broadly divided into two parts. The first part is the eclipse part, where we've got the Sun, Mercury and Venus all tracking through the sign of Aquarius. And of course, we do have that big golden Leo lunar eclipse right at the start of the month. So if you're in Australia, that eclipse, if you're in Sydney at least, that eclipse is hitting on February 1st. And for listeners and viewers who are in Canada or the US, that eclipse won't be coming, it's happening on January 31st. So it's technically a January event, but it's right on the transition point. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that here as well. So we've got those eclipses. So we've got the Leo lunar eclipse at the very start of the month, and then we've got the Aquarius new moon or solar eclipse right in the middle of the month. And that's going to flavor the first half of the month. We're going to get a lot of the eclipse energy, which makes it, generally speaking, more of a potent time. The eclipse season is actually a 6-week period that happens twice a year. And we're in the thick of that 6-week period now. It will run till the end of February, although we won't have any more eclipses after the mid-February Aquarius new moon eclipse. What happens in that 6-week eclipse season? First of all, the definition of eclipse season is when the sun is within about 18 degrees of either the north node or the south node. And it takes the sun about 6 weeks to move from 18 degrees away from the node up to being with the node, and then 18 degrees on the other side. Any new or full moon that happens in that 6-week eclipse season period will be an eclipse. The eclipses that happen at the very start or the very end of eclipse season are more sort of little or partial eclipses, and the eclipses that happen close to the middle of that 6-week eclipse season are our more dramatic or total eclipses. So the eclipse vibration, which I always think opens a bit of a portal. Eclipses are special new or full moons that are connected to the north and south node. So one of the astrological definitions of an eclipse, if you're looking in your chart, is that the new moon, so the sun or moon, or the full moon, the sun and moon opposite each other, they have to be very close to the nodes, to the north node or the south node. And any new or full moon that is within this 18-degree marker of the nodes will actually be an eclipse. That's sort of how you can see it in a chart. And so those are the eclipse energy, that idea of the portal being opened, getting a taste of the future, maybe getting a flashback to something really significant from the past that needs to be temporarily revisited so that you can get something that might be missing from that past event or something you lost back there. Those kinds of experiences are very eclipsy, and they will sort of flavour the first half of the month. In the second half of the month, we will have Venus, Mercury. Well, Venus actually moves into Pisces around the 10th of February. Let me double check my date. February 10th in Australia, US, and Canada. That'll be the first shift into Pisces. And Venus in Pisces is such a, I don't know, I don't want to say golden because golden's not right, but it's a sparkling energy. Venus in Pisces is exalted, so we get a really pure form of Venus coming through when she travels through the sign of Pisces. So there is a strong planet that we will all get a chance to benefit from this February. Venus will be in Pisces from February 10th to about the 6th of March. So during that time, things like compassion and generosity and kindness are all highlighted. Venus in Pisces is very much about connection and togetherness. It's not like collaboration, which is like productive connection and togetherness. Venus in Pisces is more like soul connection, meeting a soul sister or a soul brother, or deepening those special bonds of friendship and love that you already have in your life. Venus in Pisces is very much about giving. So it's about bringing down some of those boundaries that might prevent you from being open or really sharing and showing your feelings. So that's one thing that's on offer to all of us this month as soon as Venus moves into Pisces on February 10th. And as I said, that will be the first kind of wave of planets moving into Pisces. Mercury will move into Pisces around the 17th of February, and then the Sun will pop into Pisces around the 18th. So by the time we get to that last 10-day period of the month, we are in a different kind of feel and flow. We've got all those personal planets having shifted out of cool, calm and collected Aquarius and into much more emotional, soulful and sensitive Pisces. So if you've got some, clear-headed planning, logistical stuff, scheduling, if you've got technical things you need to deal with, aim to do those in the first part of the month when you will have particularly Mercury in Aquarius, which is, I just love Mercury in Aquarius for the kind of clear, crystal clear clarity, if you like. It's not emotional, it's not evocative, it's just like, these are the facts, these are the visions, this is what we're working towards, let's just stay on track. So that's a very different feeling in the first part of the month, particularly with Mercury in Aquarius. So that's sort of the first 2 and a bit weeks of the month. So we do start the month, we start February with a couple of planets changing signs or having recently changed signs. Mercury hotfoots it into Aquarius basically on the first day of the month. So that's going to bring Mercury out of sort of somber Capricorn, where it's been for most of January, and into Aquarius, which is definitely more of a social interactive quality. So with Mercury in Aquarius for the first couple of weeks of February, it's great for connecting with people in real life, but also and especially online. Mercury in Aquarius is also good for technology, dealing with apps and programs and software updates, anything to do with any of your devices. Maybe get moving on that in the first half of the month when Mercury's in Aquarius. Personally, I'm overdue for a new phone and I'm hoping that I can get that done. I've definitely been dragging my feet. You certainly don't want to be doing things like that once Mercury goes into Pisces later in the month. And the other planet that I wanted to give a special mention to is Mars, which late in January moved into Sagittarius. And Mars will be in Sagittarius for the whole month of February and the first half of March. So Mars in Sag is a kind of upbeat, optimistic version of Mars. It's a very outgoing energy. So if there's sort of challenges, physical challenges or just personal challenges you really want to try and tackle this year, I would suggest you get moving this month, February. By mid-March, Mars moves into Capricorn, and then for basically till the end of November, Mars is going to be in signs ruled by Saturn traditionally. So from mid-March to the end of November, mid to late November, Mars will only be in 2 signs, Capricorn and Aquarius. And I'll talk more about the reasons for that, which has to do with a mid-year Mars retrograde as we get closer to the middle of the year. But suffice to say that the kind of high energy, more outgoing, more confident, little bit of on your soapbox energy too, if we're honest, with Mars in Sag, that's available to us now all through February and the first half of March. So jump on some of those challenges. If you want to test yourself, if you want to get outside your comfort zone, if you want to take off on an exotic adventure, or if you want to really push forward with a teaching or a learning or a writing goal, get started now. And in some ways, with Mars having just moved into a fire sign, there's a little bit more movement, motivation, and mojo, if you like, coming out of the cosmos. So if you are a bit behind on some of your New Year's resolutions, I think that's a great energy to help you get going. So we've talked about Mars coming into Sag. We've talked about the difference between Mercury and Aquarius. Second half of the month, we'll have Mercury and Pisces, starting Feb 17, I think it was. Much more of a creative, soulful energy. So that'll be great for things like meditation, for doing anything to do with energy work and healing. First half of the month is more logical, practical, detailed oriented, more matter of fact with Mercury and Aquarius. And I did flag that Venus into Pisces shift, which I love. So basically you want to think about showing your feelings with Venus in Pisces, whether it's to a friend, whether it's to your romantic partner, whether it's just about being more open about your search for a romantic partner, if that's the circumstances that you're in now. Venus in Pisces, it's a sign ruled by Jupiter. Mars in Sag, also ruled by Jupiter. So one of my vibes or themes for this February is we've got a lot of planets moving through Jupiter-ruled signs, which tends to activate this more generous, uplifting, outgoing quality. And so I would encourage you to extend yourself, particularly with Venus in Pisces. You know, extend yourself towards those that might be suffering or in need, or just opting to be a little bit more giving towards loved ones without that sense of, you know, what are you getting back? Sure, Venus in Pisces, I'm not saying I want you to be a doormat, but I think there's nothing wrong with being a little bit more of that person who gives. If you can, if you're completely exhausted, the first person you need to be giving that love and that tender Venus in Pisces TLC to will be yourself. And things like listening to your favorite music, maybe going out for live music or splurging on tickets to a concert, and then all the water therapy. So baths, spas, even just long showers, or being at the beach will all be really soulful ways to heal and ground and nourish and balance if you get a bit out of whack. While Venus is in Pisces. So back to the eclipses, because I did want to quickly run through them at the top of the month. So the first eclipse, and I'm actually going to pop the chart on the screen because this fabulous program that I'm using, Zoom, I think will let me do this. Let's see if this is the right chart. It is. So I've got the chart set here for my local location, which is Orangeville in Ontario in Canada. This is the Leo lunar eclipse. The only difference that, you know, how this chart would look different for where you are is that the full moon itself would be in a different position in relation to the Earth. So where I am, the full moon eclipse is happening just after sunrise. So it's not actually visible, you know, for us in Canada or people in the US. If you're in Australia, at the time of the eclipse, which is happening through the middle of your night, you will see the moon high up. So it's almost like the chart just knocks itself up about 90 degrees. The sun comes down to the base of the chart, which is the midnight position, and the moon will be high in the top of the chart where it's visible, because we know in many parts of Australia you can actually see this eclipse, provided the weather cooperates and you don't have cloud cover. So regardless of exactly what the chart looks like for where you are, the themes emanating from this eclipse are consistent. And it is a full moon or lunar eclipse. The two terms are interchangeable. It is also a north node eclipse. The north node or south node position is determined by the placement of the moon at the time of the eclipse. And at this particular Leo eclipse, the moon is nearest the north node. The fact that the moon is only 3 degrees away, the moon will be at 11 degrees Leo at the eclipse and the node at 14 Leo. That's part of what makes this a total and much more dramatic eclipse. That 3 degree space is very, very tight. So basically we have the moon exactly conjunct the node. So from a visual spectacle, it will be wonderful if you can see it. From an energetic or an emotional perspective, there is going to be a lot of feelings that come through and come out. This is an eclipse in Leo. It's a lunar eclipse in Leo. Full moons always raise emotion. They raise the water levels in plants. We have more extreme tides. We're going to have more people going into labor, which is something that happens more under a full moon. But all of our emotional levels are up. So you're going to feel things, and you're going to feel things more strongly. And because it's Leo, even if you don't have any planets in Leo, you're going to want to express those strong feelings in a dramatic way. So we're going to have a few outbursts. We're potentially going to have a few dramas. But you know what? I actually really like any dramas that we'll have under this eclipse. They're bringing things out into the open. And this eclipse in Leo is very much about figuring out the best way to shine your light in the world. It's about celebrating your talents. It's about owning your talents. It's about acknowledging the great golden things that you're capable of, and then figuring out how to get those talents out in the world in new ways. Now, the ruler of the eclipse, in this case, is the sun. The ruler of the eclipse is the planet that rules the sign that the moon is in at the time of the eclipse. So the ruler of this eclipse is the sun, and that's actually on the south node at the time of this eclipse. So one thing we all need to let go of or release under this Leo lunar eclipse is our judgment around our inner weirdness. So, you know, planets in Aquarius kind of highlight the quirks or the oddities. They're the really unique features of who you are as a person. But what I've noticed in my years of consulting with clients is when we've got personal planets in Aquarius, we often are aware we're different, and we think there's something wrong with us because of that. I want to turn that narrative around on its head, and I want to help encourage you to embrace your weirdness, because under this lunar eclipse in Leo, if you can get confident and have courage and just be accepting of the quirky points in your personality, instead of wasting energy judging or trying to change them, you will actually release what needs to be released based on this Sun-South Node connection. And you will be able to clear baggage or fear. You'll be able to clear some of the gunk that's clogging you up and preventing you shining in this golden Leo lunar eclipse way. So of course the sun and moon work together at any full or new moon, and especially so at this particular eclipse. So balancing, you know, your fear or hesitation about standing out from the crowd or being the black sheep, balancing that, don't let that be a reason that you don't do something. Be aware of it. You know, maybe your fear is a passenger in the car with you, as Elizabeth Gilbert says in her wonderful book, Big Magic, which I highly recommend if you haven't read it. But you want to be reaching into or leaning into that full moon in Leo, which is about helping you shine your light in the world, helping you take charge, be the leader, be the king, be the queen, be a little bit bossy, be a little bit demanding. One thing I love about the sign of Leo, it's got standards. It doesn't compromise. So find an area of your life where you need to set standards that really matter to you and hold firm to those. This eclipse is going to bring things into the light, and what that means is you gain clarity on something that's been bugging you or creating a sense of unease either in your life externally or internally. So that's a quick snapshot of that Leo lunar eclipse that's coming up. And then to complete this process, of course, we must talk about the companion eclipse, which is the solar eclipse or new moon eclipse coming in Aquarius at the middle of the month. And again, I've just got this set for my location. And let me know feedback, guys, if you'd really prefer that I put, you know, different charts up and we do the Australian version as well as the North American version. You know, write me a note through the contact form on the website. You've got to scroll all the way down to the homepage. You know, let me know. This Stellar Insights Monthly is a massive experiment from my perspective. I've never done anything like this before. I'm really excited to be able to share astrology with people who are so passionate, you know, maybe as passionate as me about it, who want more. But my biggest goal is to give you the kind of astrology you're looking for. So within reason, I'm definitely open to accommodating, you know, some of the feedback or requests you guys might have. And because it is new, I definitely just want to hear from you as to how you find it. Of course, this is only video 1, and you've got another 4 videos for the month. So you get a total of 5 videos each month, plus some of those PDF resources. So back to our Aquarius eclipse. So it's a new moon eclipse. The sun and moon are conjunct. It will be also conjunct Mercury. And this eclipse is a south node eclipse because the sun and moon are nearest to the south node, which is in the sign of Aquarius. So that does create a little bit of a contradiction in energies. New moons are often about starting new things and pushing towards the future, whereas the South Node is more about release, endings, and letting go. The South Node in the Vedic or Indian traditions of astrology is also what's known as a spiritualizing influence. So it's also about shifting our perspective off exclusively material matters like money or success or ambition and onto more metaphysical matters, which are about, being in alignment with your integrity, connecting to that sense of higher purpose, maybe holding true to your own beliefs even when they differ from the beliefs or motivations that society or your family sort of presents to you as the done thing. So this eclipse in Aquarius mid-month, it'll be February 15 in North America, and it will be February 16 in Australia. This eclipse is an opportunity to break with the past so that you can move forward. I would encourage embracing that more spiritual or metaphysical mindset. That might mean that you don't chase a client or a work opportunity just for the money, but rather you're looking for something that's going to feed that deeper soul craving inside you. It might mean that you become less angsty in a relationship about, practical things like who's cleaning up or not after each other. And maybe you're more focused on, do we connect at that big picture level? Do we have the same philosophy or do we have the same vision for our life? So this is an air sign eclipse. And so air signs they lift the vibration. Fire and air signs are the more lighter elements, if you like, and so it is about getting out of the nitty-gritty day-to-day grind and taking that big picture bird's eye perspective. This eclipse, you can see the distance. The sun and moon are together at 27 Aquarius with the South Node back at 14 Aquarius. This is a 13-degree spread between the lunation, which is the sun-moon connection, and the node itself. So this is more of a partial eclipse. It's not going to be as dramatic, and I don't think the energy is going to be as intense, but I do think we each have a chance to let go of something and to embrace that higher potential. Now, the quick check your chart tips that I want to share with you for this eclipse, which you can also apply for the Leo lunar eclipse. You want to find in your chart where this 27-degree part of Aquarius is. Now, depending on the house system that you're using, I'm going to do another video, I think, for you guys just to clarify this. You may have a house cusp in the middle of Aquarius. You may be using the whole sign system, which will make it a lot easier for you. But essentially what you want to do is look for those parts of your chart. It could be 1 or 2 houses, depending on your house system, that will have Aquarius in it. And that's the part of your chart and therefore your life that is being stirred up. It's being agitated, if you like, by the eclipse. And what eclipses do is they do agitate. So you can look at the Leo house. The Leo, 11 degrees Leo is for the lunar eclipse at the start of Feb. And then look for 27 Aquarius in your chart, which would be the end of February. Just to give you a quick visual of that. So now I'm going way over time here, but that was part of the whole point of doing a paid subscription service like this, is that I can give you guys as much as you might be able to take, but I can sort of operate a little bit more freely, which is very congruent with my strong Jupiter energy. So hopefully that's not going to be too annoying for you guys if there's a little more than what's promised each month. So I'm just going to bring up the chart of Oprah Winfrey and just to show you. So we said we've got the Leo lunar eclipse at 11 Leo. So in Oprah's chart, what I'm doing is looking for the house that's got Leo on the cusp. And because I'm using the whole sign system, it's going to be a bit easier. 11 degrees Leo will fall in her 9th house. So for Oprah personally, the Leo lunar eclipse is triggering 9th house matters. Now, if you're not sure about what topics go with each house, I'd refer you back to your confirmation receipt when you booked in, because I've included a house topics guide, a 1-page PDF, which will be helpful for you. But 9th house is about international opportunities. It's about travel. It's about going overseas. It's about your faith, your philosophy, the things you believe in. It's also about teaching, learning, writing, publishing. So they're topics that are being stirred up or agitated for Oprah under this Leo lunar eclipse. And then we will have the second eclipse of this season at 27 Aquarius. And so the house ruled by Aquarius in Oprah's chart is the 3rd house. And that eclipse will fall in her third house, which is one of the communication sectors. It's got to do with siblings specifically. Third house is very much about self-expression. It's also about movement, that sort of daily commute or your daily round. It's also about your local neighborhood. So they're the areas for Oprah that are being stirred up by this pair of eclipses. And what you might notice, which you will see, I'm sure, in your chart too, that it is the opposing pair of houses. Oh, I don't want to circle right now. Thanks, drawing tool. We'll take an arrow. So 9th house, 3rd house, if you're using the whole sign system, that will be what you see in your chart. More on the houses as we go, but I wanted to give you guys as much info as possible to help you not just understand the energies that are happening, but also to start tuning into how they might be influencing you personally. So February, a month where we're focusing on the 2 eclipses, especially in the first half of the month. Strong Jupiter themes, particularly by mid-month, once we start to get the planets moving into Pisces. And, have a great month. I look forward to hearing feedback from you guys, and I will see you again very shortly in the video for the first week of the month. Bye for now.